I'd like to call to order the June 7th meeting of the Avalon City Council. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Cassidy? Here. Councilmember Hernandez?
Here.
Councilmember Sampson?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Olson?
Here.
And Mayor Marshall?
Here. If you'd please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your hand over your heart and begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I don't have any, you may be seated. I don't have an invocation today, and I would like to put a call out to anyone who would like to come to the council meetings to get in touch with me if they would like to do an invocation at our council meetings. That would be wonderful. It doesn't have to be a member of the clergy necessarily, just someone who wants to speak before the council invoking words of wisdom or prayer. I'd also like to take a moment to remember Margarita Saldana Ponce, who passed away this week. If we could just have a moment of silence. Okay. Denise, are there any announcements?
I have written communication. I have letters for item number 4 on the agenda, number 5, and number 7, for the record.
Okay, thank you. City manager report.
I have nothing to report.
Okay. City attorney.
At the last meeting, the council asked us to briefly look at the city's ability to regulate drones, and that ability is severely limited. The FAA has really taken jurisdiction over all regulations of it, and so the city's ability to impose regulations in terms of restrictions on height of drones or anything that drones do is really severely limited. Some examples of where you might have some ability is you can ban drones being used to peer into people's private areas of their homes, not necessarily the backyard, but that's pretty much it. And so if you were wanting to if you wanted to regulate drones, what the FAA has said is, tell us what the regulations are, and we'll review them. They are in the process of adopting regulations that would provide more clarification as to what cities can do, so I would suggest that you wait until those regulations are out.
Council, is that okay? Excellent.
Yep.
Okay, council member reports. Anybody want to start?
I'll make it easy. I haven't been here for 2 weeks, so I have nothing to report.
Well, you could report on your trip. But.
And I just wanted to give a shout out to the Avalon Freight for storing our electric buses for a couple of days out there. When they first came over, they weren't, I guess they worked it out to have them stored for a while because we really had no place to put them. And I just want to thank Avalon Freight for doing that. Thank you, guys.
That's nice. Councilmember Hearn.
Yeah, I want to announce that Avalon made history today with the Catalina Island Medical Center and the VA of Long Beach. We've been working on a program to implement health care for veterans here on Catalina Island so that our veterans don't have to travel handicapped and not to the mainland to receive certain types of health care. And today, my Uncle Richard Saldana was the first one to actually go online, and we had this program called telemedicine implemented. And today was the first time that we actually exercised that through a Dr. Schreiber, who's been instrumental in us gaining a foothold on this program. It's taken 3 years to get this going. I just want to say that I'm really grateful for the hard work that's been put in by my Uncle Rich and Catalina Island Medical Center, Dr. Stephen Schreiber from the VA in Long Beach, and I think Congressman Lowenthal's office was instrumental in helping us push this through. Veterans are now able to receive neurological, mental health, and primary care services here on Catalina, and we're going to try to actually be implementing more services as time goes on. So I just wanted to let everybody know that. So if you're a veteran and you need medical care, and it falls under any of those three categories, you can go up to the hospital and you can talk to Janaea. She's kind of handling, she's kind of the liaison, well, not kind of, she's the liaison for veterans over here and the hospital. So we're really excited about that. It's taken a lot of hard work and a lot of pressing dialogue to make this happen. Let's see. I noticed the buses are running now, the e-buses. The system seems to be running pretty good, and I just want to give a shout out to everybody who's helping out with that. It's really a cool thing. It seems like you guys are doing a good job, and with that being said, it was instrumental that our own City Warehouse crew helped out a lot, trying to get the different variables to this issue dealt with. Derek and Charlie and all the guys up there that helped out with this. We're really grateful for what you've done. Let's see what else. That's all I'm going to announce tonight. Anyway.
Thank you.
Joe.
That is good news.
Hi. I'm a member of the League of California Cities Revenue and Taxation Committee and Community Services Committee, and we had a meeting in Sacramento last Thursday and Friday. The one scary thing that kind of came out is this proposal by the governor to have by right housing approvals. For affordable housing, they take away all local control and local approvals for affordable housing projects. This is looked at as a way to expedite it, but I think that's sending the wrong message, especially to the cities, because any project, especially affordable housing projects, have some mitigations that might need to be met. And we've encouraged our senator and assemblyman to vote against this. We'll see what happens. Also, the other big thing in revenue and taxes, they're still trying to figure out a way to backfill our lost revenue from sales tax, because sales tax collections are down about 40% because of the change to e-commerce and such. So they're looking at exemptions. They're looking at broadening the base. I did ask the question because they were talking about taxing amusements like golf and theaters and things. And it says, what about us that already have an amusement tax on the books? And they said they weren't aware of that many of us, so they are going to look into that. And then the community services is concerned about housing. There's a fairly significant bond measure that's coming out that's going to have some money for affordable housing for homeless people, mostly homeless vets. And so we'll see what happens there. Thank you.
Thank you. I attended the fire department training that they put on last week. It was that quick CPR, staying alive, how to use a fire extinguisher, which is the first time I ever did that, and that was really wonderful. And there was some first aid, but I only did the fire extinguisher training, and so thank you, City Fire, for that. I had a question. Dennis is here. And just an update, hopefully this is the time. The reclamation report, that whole study, Dennis J.H. I'm sorry, baby.
Different headlight.
I didn't mean to wake him up.
You went to sleep. Because you were talking about a draft and then whatever, so just where that is.
Water reclamation.
Yes, sir.
Reclaimed water.
Yes.
Yes, we got the draft. We were a little optimistic that we put it out to the public right away. I told you a couple of weeks, 6 to 8 weeks ago. We had forgotten to involve Southern California Edison, who has reviewed the plan and has added a bunch of very good information that's
Okay.
incorporated into the plan. It's our goal to have it on the website within
Okay.
So we have about a week.
Great, thank you. And Denise, this is a question for you, just so because people that want to know, the mole project study that was done by Kendall Flint.
I don't have a confirmed date from Kendall yet of when she can be here. We have a conference call on later this week.
Okay, I know you've been on it. Thank you so much. Okay. I'd spoken to Denise a little bit the other day when we had our meeting about expanding the roles and responsibilities of the Planning Commission. Right now, it's a one-liner that says they review the state, county, and federal zoning requirements. That's about all it says. But knowing that we're in a situation where there's not going to be a lot of development in the near future, perhaps we wanted to, and this would take kind of, I think, your kind of support, to see if they could look at other areas. They could look at parking, they could look at lighting. There's just a lot of things that they could maybe, because that's 7 other people, and the more people that are involved in coming up with solutions to problems might be helpful and kind of, I don't know, if you think that's something that we would like to, I don't either discuss here or have Denise talk with the planning department about which directions they think they could expand their areas of discussion, and then of course anything they came up with would come to us, but it might help us along the way as well because we're all kind of busy also. Is that it?
I certainly would support that. I think that we underutilize our commissions and groups in general. The one thing I would say is we've published the last 2 to 3 weeks in the paper for the Planning Commission positions. So whether or not we would, if we were going to expand the role, that might attract other applicants for the position outside of just the planning and development part. So I would suggest that we maybe put out the expanded roles.
Because those were the filing date on that was the 10th or the 12th of this month?
Yes, it was supposed to be on the next agenda, the appointment. But we could extend it and do it the first part of July because they don't have their meeting until the 3rd Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. Do we have a lot of applicants at this point?
We have 5, I believe, Mayor.
Okay, we have 5 openings?
We have 4 regular seats and 1 alternate.
Right, so will council give direction? Because we could do that for a couple more weeks, or we could see if we talked, because I will be interviewing all the candidates, so I could talk to them about the expanded role and see if that's of interest.
I'd like to be involved in interviews. Are you planning, can we do them 2 and 1, or how are you?
I don't know. I usually, last time I interviewed him and then made the recommendation, so I don't know if you want to change that process. Is there any special way the process needs to be?
The municipal code just provides that the mayor makes the nominations and the council confirms.
I mean, if someone else wants to sit in on the, I'm really not excited about delaying this by trying to get everybody's schedules together because it's hard enough to get us together.
I won't be making any agreement unless I've spoken to the applicants. I think it's important for us to make sure that we know who we're appointing in the positions. So I'm happy to participate, or I can set up separate interviews, whatever works. If our schedules work, it'd be great to do it together.
Well, let me ask a question. Is everybody really interested in interviewing all of the candidates for the Planning Commission?
Sure. I'm good.
No?
I mean, it's, if there's someone we don't know that's in that pool, it would probably be a good idea to talk to them. But if there's somebody you already know, I think that might be just spinning your wheels. But I think it should be up to the individual council members after they see the individual applications to find out who's out there. I don't think it's necessary to interview everybody because there's people you might already know where their experience comes from.
We generally don't see the applications until the council packet.
That's this.
So is it possible to know the applicants ahead of time?
Yes.
I mean, so that the 5 that have come in, can we just get their information and we can move forward?
Yes.
So perhaps I would go through with the official nomination or
Yeah.
whatever, but if you want to meet
Yeah.
them, you'll get their names, and if you want to meet with them, you can meet with them. How's that?
That's great.
Sounds good to me.
All right.
And I believe we have the ability to task the planning commission with special studies and special areas of discussion. I don't think we need to codify it, do we?
In the past, you've actually assigned tasks to the planning
Right.
commission.
So if we can continue, and I guess it's time for people to let them know that we're going to go beyond the scope of what they've been doing for the last 40 years. 50. Okay.
They have gone beyond it.
I mean,
That's fine.
okay. All righty. And one other question. I know I see with this. This?
No. I don't think we want
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he gave us a report. He talked to us about the drones.
that. Okay.
Did you have anything else you wanted to report?
No.
I covered it. Why you try to screw with me, Ole?
I'm not screwing with you.
Come on.
Do it officially.
Okay, I was official. He already talked about the drones. Okay. See? Okay. The other thing is on the budget, because we're going to be getting into the budget in the future, and I'm wondering if it's possible or appropriate that, you know, we all kind of have our special little projects and things we'd like to do, but I don't know if it's appropriate to kind of at some point be able to throw that out while the budget's being drafted, so we can look at the impact of everything we think that we want, and then, and for example,
Reclaimed water.
okay, or trash cans. Okay.
Those are both in there.
Okay. Okay. But we might have, well, I'm trying to think. Okay, one of the things we had discussed at one point was selling merchandise with the city logos on it and the, you know, T-shirts and hats and whatever as a way to generate some revenue for either the 4th of July or something else. And that would take seed money, not necessarily, you know, hopefully it would sell and we would be fine, but for those kinds of things, I don't know if or do we wait till we get into the budget session? Would you rather see it before, or would you rather see it at the time we do the budgets and then we go, oh, well, what about this and what about that? I'll address Bob on that one. Thanks, Bob.
We have a tentative budget study session, which we have to email you the date,
Okay.
which is the 17th.
Of June? Okay.
And if you have suggestions of things you'd like for us to consider, please email me.
Okay, so kind of get them on there now, and then we can decide as a council if we want the ideas or if we scratch them.
But, you know, keep in mind the dollar level too. If we're talking about $3,000 or $4,000 here or there, that's not really what we should be focusing on for the whole year.
Okay.
You know, we're a $25 million operation, and we should be focusing on the large dollar items. The little ones could be left up to the city manager and the department heads, and then the larger dollar values would be more for the city council to, we'd bring them to the city council to decide on what to do.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. Thank you. All right.
What time on June 17th? Do you know, Denise?
We were looking at 8:30 in the morning, but I had to make sure how your schedules were. You said you'd like the special meetings in the morning.
Mm-hmm. That's what we said. Okay.
Just great. It's just great.
All right. That's all I had, except now we will move on to a proclamation, and Zach Thomas from the Catalina Island Spa is here. If you please step forward. Which way should we turn?
That's perfect.
This is perfect. Come on up, Zach. Okay. Whereas since 2012, the second Saturday in the month of June has been designated as Global Wellness Day throughout the world. And whereas wellness is essential to the well-being and vitality of all families, businesses, and communities. And whereas one day can change your whole life. Whereas one day can change your whole life is the slogan for Global Wellness Day. And whereas the Global Wellness Day's basic philosophy is to create a lasting awareness of living well for all people all over the world. And whereas the first Global Wellness Day was established in Turkey as the first day dedicated to living well and has now been accepted worldwide, and it was officially celebrated in 73 countries in 2015. And whereas the main aims of the day are to recognize the value of our lives, to pause and think, even if just for one day of the year, to be free from the stress of everyday city life and bad habits, to make peace with ourselves, to raise awareness about living well and increase motivation, not just for today, but for the remaining 364 days of the year. And whereas the 7 steps of the Global Wellness Day manifesto are to walk for an hour, drink more water, not drink from plastic bottles, eat organic foods, do a good deed, have a family dinner, sleep at 10 p.m., and whereas each business, school, government agency, law enforcement agency, health care provider, organization, and citizen shares the responsibility to promote wellness, now therefore we, the Avalon City Council, do hereby proclaim Saturday, June 11th, 2016 as Global Wellness Day. Signed, the City Council of the City of Avalon. You're welcome, and thank you. And if you would like just to talk a little bit more about what's in store.
Sure. Thank you very much. This means a great deal to us. The second Saturday of June every year is now celebrated worldwide in over 85 countries as Global Wellness Day, and as outlined by the mayor, there are 7 simple steps, and really basically it's to create awareness. We're not asking for everyone to do everything every single day, but more so think about the impact that you have not only for yourself, but others in our community. So the spa will be celebrating this entire week leading up to Global Wellness Day, but as well as on Saturday, we're participating in the Relay for Life that's taking place on Saturday as another kind of community event. We will definitely get our hour of walking in, since we'll be there from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. But we invite the local members, local residents, as well as visitors on Saturday to come in for complimentary fitness classes. We'll have water stations set up in the lobby so that everyone can fill up their non-plastic water bottles, as well as have to-go orders available for anyone from our spa cafe. So, just doing our part, this means, again, a great deal to us to have the city recognize the day, and we hope to make it even a larger event next year. So, thank you very much.
Zach, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Presentations. Our first one is Audra McDonald.
Good evening. Before I get started, I wanted to invite Ernesto from Transportation Concepts to come up and introduce some of the new staff.
Hello, council members, mayor. Nice to meet you.
Welcome back.
Today, I'd just like to introduce a couple of people that we have on our staff, and we'd like to stand up, please. First, on the very far corner, we have Corina Rufino. We have Ruben Cordova, Frank Layton, and as you well know, Bobby Boyd. He's my right-hand man, our supervisor. Billy Boyd, I'm sorry. I keep getting his name wrong. He's going to hit me pretty soon, so. And then the tall gentleman, that's Arthur, Mr. Gilbert. He's actually our trainer. So he's the one that actually does all the training for us.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much.
That's great.
Yay. Welcome aboard.
Really loud. Okay, so as the council is aware, we started our new transit program on June 1st. The buses started operating yesterday, a week behind schedule. These are what the temporary bus stop signs look like. We have them strategically placed right now at busier stop signs, but eventually we will, or bus stops, but we'll have them everywhere eventually. We also have our transit brochure, and we'll go ahead and get started. So everybody has seen the new dial-a-ride vehicles, and here's the mayor helping me go pick the first one up, which was a lot of fun. There seems to be a lot of enthusiasm for these new vehicles, so we're really excited about that. Some quick information based on some feedback from community outreach where we went to the senior meals and the senior center. We've made some changes to the program. Their extended hours of operation now end at 8 p.m. instead of 6:30 p.m. All dial-a-ride passengers can and are encouraged to make reservations up to 7 days in advance for trips that they know are coming up. And then also there is what's called a subscription service that can be made up to 3 months in advance for routine outings. If you go to the senior meals at the church every single day, Monday through Friday, you can make reservations for 3 months in advance to be picked up, dropped off, taken back home, or say you have a physical therapy that you know is going to be recurring, you can make those reservations. So that's a really nice addition to the service. The dial-a-ride began June 1st, and as of about 1 o'clock today, it had moved 70 passengers. Again, it operates from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Reservations accepted. Subscription services available. No application necessary. If you've purchased purple tickets prior to June 1st, 2016, you're already in their system. The fare is $2, no tipping. Unexpired purple tickets will be honored. Riders new to the city's dial-a-ride program must be 65 years of age. So if you're already in the program, you're fine. And here we are with the Garibaldi. And I'm happy to report that the very first riders were all teachers yesterday morning, which was really exciting. They were very happy to be able to get off the boat and get on the bus and get where they needed to go.
Great.
This is some photos of today. As you can see, the buses were full and the stops were busy. Operations began yesterday. As of 4 o'clock today, we had moved 366 passengers. Service begins at 7:20 at the Mole, Monday through Friday, 8:20 a.m. Saturday and Sunday. It ends at 6 p.m. Sunday through Thursday and 7 p.m. Friday through Saturday. Buses for the downtown route are coming approximately every 20 minutes. It's been a little bit longer than that because of the construction going on Metropole. So we're saying approximately right now, we're striving for every 20 minutes. And then the buses for the gardens are every 40 minutes. And they actually ran later today because of the need. They went past 4:30. The bus route is designed to benefit residents and visitors alike, and to promote the new service, the city will be hosting one ride-free day a month for the next 3 months. The first ride-free day will be Thursday, June 16th, so we encourage everybody to hop on the bus and check it out. Some of the stops really work for locals, and I've used it, so it's good. Important details, transportation concepts, city mechanics, and code enforcement met to coordinate and finalize the bus maintenance, bus stops, and other pertinent details. A detailed 7-day and 45-day maintenance checklist have been developed with input from the city mechanics to ensure safety and compliance. So we all met together and went through what needed to be done every 7 days, every 45 days, so everybody is comfortable and on board with that. As you know, the temporary charging station was installed at the city warehouse where we're waiting for the final parts for the city hall charging locations. And then the temporary bus stop signs have been placed at the busiest locations. And then as we dial in the bus route, because there'll probably be some tweaks over the next few months to figure out really what works the best, and we'll have the permanent bus stop sign. And then good news also is that we made a pretty large investment through a grant for these buses, and eBus has not left us in the dust. They have sent their technician over, and he was here all day Friday, yesterday and today, monitoring how the buses are doing. There's a few little technical things that he's taking care of, so it was really great to have his support while we get the bus service started. Let's talk about the performance a little bit. It's doing a lot better, or not, it's doing great, not a lot better. They are performing well. They're maintaining a great charge. When I made this, I didn't know how good it was. And they're handling a full passenger load up the canyon with ease, which I know was a concern. I was told this afternoon that one bus running all day long didn't even get a third of, it still had 2/3 of its charge left. So that's really good news. They're performing really well. There are some challenges with the temporary charging station up at the warehouse, and depending on the charging situation, there may be times when there'll be only one bus, but we're hoping that the new charging stations will be installed soon. Fine-tuning and follow-up with the Garibaldi Now and Service City and Transportation Concepts will be working closely together to fine-tune the route, the stops, and the timing of the service. This will include newly painted curbs to accommodate the bus stops and possibly some changes to parking zones in the commercial areas. Transportation Concepts will continue assessing ridership trends on the dial ride to ensure adequate staffing during the peak times so that everybody's getting moved where they need to be and keeping the city informed. And then the staff will be going back to the seniors and visiting with them again to get feedback on the program, see how it's going, and if there's anything that we can do to improve. There is a website with all of this information and more, www.avalontransit.org, and it takes you straight to the city's transportation page. It has everything you need to know. If the bus stops would change, that'll be updated on the website. There's also links to the rider's guide, the Dial-A-Ride application, and the access applications. And the City of Avalon and Transportation Concepts will strive to offer the best transit experience to residents and visitors equally. And that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions?
Great.
Yes.
Buses are nice.
Yes, and everybody, they've worked hard and fast and furious to get all this done. Thank you very much, Transportation Concepts, Audra, and city staff. Okay, and presentation, the second presentation is Southern California Edison.
Excuse me. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me this evening. My name is Mary Finn Parker, and I'm the program manager for Southern California Edison.
I'm so sorry, you don't look comfortable because you're so tall. So why don't you put that mic up and then put it.
No, it doesn't work, Annie.
Oh, it's not working at all?
Is this one working?
Oh.
Can you pull the one out?
No, he's saying okay.
Oh, I could do that.
Everything's okay. Either one.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. It was fun. I don't mind holding it.
Okay.
Okay, good evening. My name is Mary Finn Parker, and I'm from Southern California Edison, and I work on the multifamily rebate program for Edison. I've also brought with me this evening John Cow, and he works at Coast to Coast Lighting, and he's one of our approved contractors that Edison uses for all of our projects.
Welcome.
So what I want to talk about is our rebate program that we offer right now at Edison. We serve multifamily apartment buildings. And what we do is we help pay for their installation of their lighting and other items that we help give them. And in a lot of cases, we do it all for free. So a lot of customers, a lot of times landlords don't want to help customers and tenants do the energy efficient upgrades because they're not paying the electric bill, the tenant is. And then the tenant doesn't want to do anything because the tenant's like, I don't own this building, so why should I put LED in? So you have what's called a split incentive where nobody does anything. And that's what we actually see at Edison. So we're trying to work with the energy efficiency strategic plan and have our customers become more energy efficient. And one of the ways we can help them is if we help offset the cost or pay for it completely, then we can help them to become more energy efficient. About 1/3 of all of our residents in Edison territory live in multifamily properties. And I already mentioned about split incentives. Sometimes you just have landlords that just don't want to do the work. Even if it's free, it's still their time, and their time's important. So sometimes even with Edison giving it to them for free, we still see people not doing it. But we're hoping that with energy efficiency and with savings on their electric bills, that they'll think twice about that. Let's see. Sometimes they might think it's an inconvenience, but a lot of times we work with the landlords, we work with property owners, and we can get in and out of there pretty quickly. We only use a couple of contractors at Edison for our projects that are free, and that way we can keep control of it all. So we're not worried about having 300 or 400 different contractors all doing work out there when we've only got a handful that we can control and watch what they're doing. These are some of the items that we give for free. I think that Catalina Island's already getting the aerators and low flow shower heads, but normally with Edison, we only give those to electric customers. So when you're on the mainland, if you have any other friends out there, if they have electric water heating, then they get it. With Catalina Island, because we serve everything here, it's a little different than the rest of the mainland. But we also offer A19 lights, and if you notice, the middle one is an A19 light. So if you see the middle light bulb, that's an A19. That's what we call an A19. That's a screw-in LED that you're looking at in that photo. And what we do is we replace that with either an incandescent lighting or a compact fluorescent lighting. So, and these can use about 90% less than an incandescent. So if you had a 100-watt incandescent, they can use around 10 or 12 watts. If you have a compact fluorescent, like around a 22, 26, you could probably still go around 10 or 12 watts with an LED. So it's huge energy savings. And the lighting is actually better. It's a whiter looking light. It's more color to daylight than a compact. Compact fluorescents normally take a little bit of time to get on, then they have to heat up to get bright. And when they break, they're very messy. Where LED lighting, they last like 20 years. They're huge energy savings, and their lighting's much, much better than the compact fluorescents. So I have them in my house. I've had them for 2.5 years. They work great. So the other two on the left are compact fluorescent fixtures that we also give for free, but we also rebate LED fixtures, so I'll tell you about that too. So these are some of the rebates that Edison offers. We do pool lighting, we do pool and spa lighting, we do reflective lamps, MRs, washing machines, vending machines. We help controllers for that. All these we give actual rebates to. So if a customer wanted to go out and buy some of these, they can actually do this on their own, and we can still rebate these too. But for the free items, they would need to go through our approved contractor. And when I say multifamily, I'm talking about the HOA communities too. So any of your HOA communities out here can also get all the exterior lighting done by Edison too. So for apartments, we can do interior and exterior, and then for HOAs, we can do all the exterior. So here it is. Here, who qualifies? New construction does not qualify. So if there's one getting built right now, that would not qualify. It must be an existing multifamily complexes. It can be senior living facilities as long as there's not nursing facility, single room occupancies, apartment buildings, things like that. When you're talking about common areas, it can be the multi-purpose rooms, the leasing offices, rec rooms, community rooms, laundry rooms, fitness centers, carports, garages, all that's in an HOA community can be covered by Edison. We also offer pool pumps. An average pool pump saves about $1,100 a year when you have a variable speed drive pool pump. Edison rebates them $1,000 for the pool pump. And so you're going from usually a single speed to a variable speed. And another added benefit besides energy is that they're a lot quieter. So customers that have them by their pools would like it because then they can read by the pool without the pool pump on all the time. So they're very good energy savings. We also do the spas. So we do pools, spas, and waiting pools. Here's the LED lighting. We actually pay for LED lighting for your pools. Normal pool probably has anywhere from a 400, 500 watt incandescent lighting in their pool, and you can go down to a 58 watt LED lighting. So huge electric savings for this. And I'm not sure I don't know about the pools out here, if they're all LED or variable speed drive or not right now, but this is a good way to save energy. And that's it. Is there any questions?
No, but I hope Sol Vista, Bahia Vista, and Triana, and a lot of those places are listening and I guess we can put this on the website as well, on our city website. Hi there,
yes.
John.
Here's some examples. So this
is something that would typically go on the outside, the apartment complexes, HOAs. We do all the installation through Southern California Edison, so they pay us directly. The residents don't have to pay nothing. The owners get it all for free. With the residents, we can do the LED light bulbs or something very simple for the HOA. We're at Hamilton Cove. Where we're looking at, there was a ton of stuff that we could have did free. They would save probably about 75% on their exterior lighting just by letting us inside the property. We dispose of all the trash. We do all the labor. So basically, if someone's interested, they can contact me or Mary. I did leave my card in there. And it's as simple as signing up, letting us walk through the property. We'll introduce what we want or can offer them, and they can decide what they want. We're trying to get participation this year, sometime this year, just to help everyone out. It helps us out.
So our programs go yearly, usually from January to December, or when the money runs out. So whichever comes first. So that's another thing also, is that our programs are yearly and they change every year. So something that I'm offering right now on the program may be different, next year. So for example, the pool pumps probably will not be $1,000 next year. It will probably be significantly less. So things like that if you're thinking about or you're on the fence about doing, you'd probably want to do it now with our rebate. Bahia is familiar with our program because we have already gone out there and we have done a sample lighting out there. And there is probably some others. And I have talked to Hamilton Cove several times about theirs. So it would be great for us to get a huge amount and come out all at once and have it all shipped at one time and just do it all at the same time. That would be the benefit, that having all the customers reach out to us and letting us know so we can coordinate and get all this done. Because the hardest part is getting the product over here. And I'm sure you hear that a lot from a lot of people, but we're no different. So that's what we want to do, is get everything over here and then be able to do everything and work with Edison and Coast to Coast together to get it all done.
So if let's say Tremont Street Apartments doesn't move on it, but there are tenants there, can the tenants themselves apply for it, or does it have to come through the main organization?
It has to come through the owners, because the owners are typically going to be signing the agreement with Edison, that they agree that Edison's contractors are going to come in and make all these changes. So it's not going to be a onesie-twosie thing. We wouldn't be saying, let's go to A and not the rest of them. It's going to be where we're going to come in and we're going to come and do all of it at once, and then that's it. Because one is because our budget is limited, and we know that, and we've set aside money for this Catalina Island to bring the products over here, get it all done, and get it completely energy efficient at once. So because of the cost of it too. So we're trying to keep it at the lowest amount of cost. And we do know last year we ran out of money around August last year. So we did, and I don't see it being any different this year either. That's why I wanted to get here, speak about it, get some interest, and start getting as many as we can do right away.
Great, Mary. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And John, thank you.
Mayor, I have a question for Adeline with SCE. And I realize that you are not our Phase 2 water expert, but I received for several different locations a letter that I presume many others in town have received. And this is a letter regarding the Stage 2 mandatory water conservation and rationing will remain in effect for Catalina Island, subject to monthly review. My concern is the second paragraph. The first sentence states, in partnership with the City of Avalon and the County of Los Angeles, SCE's new desalination unit, plant number 2, is now in service and providing an additional source of drinking water to the community. So it's my understanding that it is not actually producing an additional source at this time, that it's running in saltwater mode.
So it is producing additional supplemental water. You're correct that we do have 2 permits to that. One is the seawater mode permit, which we received, I believe, in May, and we're waiting for the brine mode permit, which we are hoping to receive sometime this month. So with that, we'll be able to produce even more water. But the plant has been in operation, and from what I remember, I think we've produced about 2,000 gallons since, or maybe an additional 0 somewhere, but we have been producing water.
Okay, so I'm still confused, and my apologies to everyone else, but I'm confused because where is the additional source of drinking water?
Plant 2 makes more than Plant 1 each day.
Each day?
More efficient, yeah. So the new plant makes more water than plant number 2 makes more water per day than plant number 1. And and that's where the additional water is coming from.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anytime.
Anything else? Okay. Oral communications. This is an opportunity for members of the community to speak on an issue that is not on the agenda. You will be given 3 minutes and no action will be taken.
Hi, Pam Albers, 217 Calle del Sol. I'm going to talk first about the museum because, in part, it relates to water. I am not the only person in the community who was disappointed at the process by which the museum essentially bypassed all of the procedures that everybody else has to follow in order to have a water allocation and maintain a water allocation. I don't think it's a question of relative worth or value or anything else. I think it's a question of fairness, that people in the community did not feel it was fair. I do not understand how somebody who is a supervisor of water audits and the PUC can determine for this community what use is more important over another use. So I know that there's a lot of concern in the community about that. I also had an opportunity, because they are very responsive with Public Records Act requests, to look at the letters that were written. I think that it did not fairly detail the amount of water that's going to be needed by the museum. All they indicated was what is for washing hands, but they have extensive patio tiles, floors have to be mopped, things have to be cleaned with water, and there's no indication that they're using anything other than the water that's going to come out of the tap to do that. So the estimate of how much water they're actually going to be using, I think, is probably going to be understated. But again, it's just a question of fairness and who's making the decisions for our community, and why isn't the city council and the community involved in these kind of important questions rather than some state agency. On a more personal level, I'm going to ask the city council consider having a sign posted at the bottom of Metropole and Beacon that says no museum parking. The museum is currently, even though it wasn't included in their planning approval specifically, planning on showing 2 movies on the back of its building. If you go to Calle del Sol, where I live, there's a white rectangle you can see, and they're busy putting up the stadium bleachers. So among the educational things that will be showing is a screening of Jaws on January 18th, and I, for one, do not really want to have people sitting in golf carts blocking the very small Calle del Sol in order to take in this movie. So I think it at least will be some help to have a sign at, as I said, at the bottom of Beacon and Metropole indicating that there's no museum parking up there. If we could have code enforcement maybe spend a little extra time until people get used to the idea that, in fact, there is no parking on Calle del Sol. And I would think that the fire department, because the red line there, which blocks out the miniature 10 feet of space that is that street, might want to have it repainted so that we have safety in place there. And then again, finally on water, I talked about this before, but I brought a copy of all the monies that are still left from Prop 1 bond water money. The reclamation project that you're talking about is 4 years out, but there's stuff we could be doing right now. I'm just going to throw out, could we get solar panels, some kind of project going for our desal plants, because oil is up to $50 a barrel now. It's going to go up. It's not going to stay at $30, and we are going to be paying the price for that now that we're totally dependent on desal water. And I really think while we have the opportunity to produce some water, put it in trucks, and put it into the reservoir, we should be doing that, because that aquifer is going to start getting damaged. And it's simply a matter of asking for a waiver. I know that the Edison guys go, no, it's against the rules. Well, obviously the PUC is willing to bend the rules when they need to for us, and this is a situation where we really do need to bend the rules. But before we do that, I'm just going to say, on behalf of those of us in the community that are coming down with weird, rare, statistically not normal cancers, get somebody to dredge the reservoir. Edison has a plan, dust it off, get some of this money, test it, and so that we know for sure that there's nothing in that. And then at least we've also increased our rainwater harvesting abilities. Now is the time to do it. We're at 175 acre feet. It couldn't be easier if we tried to create a project for that. And they already have the plans. There's money available. Thank you.
Thank you. You always give us a lot there, Pam Albers, and I do appreciate it. And I know we can't really start a discussion, but I'd be happy to talk to you about some of the stuff that you chatted about. Okay.
Actually, I think this might, no, we can't, I'm sorry. We can't take any action.
No.
You're right.
My name is Judy Greer. I'm with the Friends of the Library this time, and the library is on Sumner Avenue for those of you who haven't been able to find it for the last 20 years. I do want you to know we're clearing it out, and it should be renovated, the landscaping outside, fairly soon. The children's library programs will be starting pretty soon. The first designated one I know is Wednesday, the 22nd of June. These start at 3 o'clock, and they'll be in the patio area. These are funded by the Friends of the Library and the library system and all your contributions. And so there will be a series of 9 events during the summer. Most of them will be every Wednesday at 3 o'clock, so that's after nap time. And we encourage you to bring your children, usually the ages of about 3 to 10 or 12. We're expecting Cowboy Bob and magicians and jugglers, all kinds of acts like that. So please encourage everybody to bring their kids.
That was June 21st?
June, yeah, whatever Wednesday. There'll be Wednesdays, every Wednesday except for one is a Thursday.
Okay, great.
Okay.
And I would just like to add on to that very quickly. I got a call from Jerry Gaines, who worked with Don Kanabi. The Board of Supervisors meeting today, he is putting through a request for either $436 or $463,000 for the library remodel. Little above your $30,000. So let's hope that got approved today.
Well, hopefully that'll be making things move. We can build a bank at the same time.
Yeah.
Thank you, Judy.
David Hart, City of Avalon's Recreation Department. Saturday, May 28th, the city and community parents put the after prom party here at City Hall. The after prom party is to give a fun and safe place to allow the prom participants to keep the evening going without turning to drugs or alcohol. There was music, games, movies, and food, and the parents were very thankful for the city allowing them to use City Hall as the venue. Sign up for T-ball has started. The last day to sign up will be June 13th at Joe Machado Field from 5 to 7. For just $25, your child aged 3 to 9 years old can come and learn the fundamentals of the game through fundamental games. Practice and games will be on Thursdays starting June 23rd from 5 to 7:30. This Saturday at Joe Machado Field, Relay for Life will be happening from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. This is a fundraiser where members of the community create teams, and within those teams, they will take turns walking around a track for 12 hours straight in honoring someone who is fighting cancer or memorializing a cancer passing. Food, games, and activities will be provided, as well as entertainment to build camaraderie, which the whole community is welcome to participate in. 100% of the money raised will go directly to the American Cancer Society. Last year, Catalina Island raised over $10,000. We are hoping to match or surpass that number, so please come, enjoy, donate, and learn how you can help this Saturday, June 11th, on Joe Machado Field from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you going to be speaking on something that's not on the agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Last month, the hospital foundation needed some life-saving equipment. They were $250,000 short. You guys did a great job stepping up to the plate, loaning them the money. I know it's an interest-bearing loan, Mr. Olson, but the bottom line is they were short. They were out of money. They needed the equipment. You came through. I'm not in the hospital foundation board, but I know they need more money. Last week, I received another letter. I receive letters almost every week. I buy a lot of $100 tickets for I don't know what. I haven't won a trip to anywhere yet. I know you want, I'll send me somewhere, so let me win. Okay? Last week, I got the letter from the cheerleaders. They need $1,000 for their camp deposit. They need $3,000 for uniforms. They need $2,000 to go on trips to support the football and basketball teams. They need another $500 for homecoming decorations. When we talk about that, this is $6,500 from this one organization. So I'm really proud to report to you that we have incorporated, it's actually a mutual benefit LLC for what we believe will be Avalon's first dispensary, medical marijuana dispensary. We expect that it's going to make a couple $100,000 a year. I hear from the LA Times that one councilman said it could make $750,000 a year. What I want you to know is that this mutual benefit LLC will not pay me one penny. None of my family, none of my hotel staff makes a nickel on this. It's not about that. It's about how much money can we put back into the community. Where's the hospital come up with the $250,000 next time? And if they came up with that money, they won't have the next chunk of money for the next piece of required equipment because they're paying off an old debt. So I'm just telling the city to let you know this is a nonprofit organization. We've just gotten the mutual benefit status from the state of California, which requires it to be nonprofit, and that as a participant in the organization of it, that I'm making sure that I make nothing on it, because it's more important to create this cash flow and to give it back to the community. We come from the theory that people who already have the need for the medicine already get it, and they're leaving their money in Long Beach and they're leaving money in San Pedro and Lomita, et cetera, et cetera. And why not be able to capture some of that revenue and then let it go right to the city, right to the people who need it most. And those people that are the most supportive of the action, of course, would probably get the most, right? And people who hate the action would probably get just a little less. But the bottom line is it creates, and everybody knows, everybody thinks they know, I don't know yet, that it will create a great deal of money, and if it does, 100% of it goes right back into the community with no fees or salary for myself, my family, or my employees. I'm just really excited that we've got this Access LLC. It's called a mutual benefit because it's a nonprofit. So more to come on that in the future. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mark. Okay. Anybody else?
We're hearing from the back room.
I just wanted to follow up on the disaster relief funding reported last time on our insurance claim. We just received an additional payment from the state through their CDAA funds as we submitted disaster relief through the Office of Emergency Services. So to date, we've received $76,445 for the beach sand replacement, the swim float, and for mooring repairs. So we're continuing to pursue that. The state's been very helpful with us. Big shout out to Aliana in Finance, who went through all of the old records to pull that information so we could submit the reports. But we have 2 more to submit, and so we'll see where those kind of fall with the state. So we're pursuing that, and once this kind of wraps up, then I think we can actually officially close our state of emergency.
Great. Thank you, Jordan. I know you were instrumental in all of that, too, so thank you very much, and finance as well. Great. Okay, I think we're pastoral communications, consent calendar.
There are four items tonight on the consent calendar. The first one is actions. There's 3 sets of actions from 3 regular meetings of April 19th, May 3rd, and May 17th. Second item is the purchase of an electrical panel for from Walters Wholesale Electric, and the recommended action is to authorize the city manager to purchase that piece of equipment for a cost of $12,148.48 plus the barge freight charges, and determine that the purchase can be done more economically and efficiently without strictly following the bidding procedures. Number 3 is the purchase of a heavy-duty mobile column lift, and recommended action is to purchase this piece of equipment in the amount of $46,275 plus tax from Napa Tools and Equipment. I just want it noted that it won't just be used on the e-bus, but it will be for other pieces of equipment. Number 4 is the encroachment permit for construction of off-street parking at 34 Wrigley Terrace Road. Recommended action is to approve the encroachment permit to allow construction of 4 off-street parking spaces at 340 Wrigley Terrace Road. And you did receive written communication that I placed in your mailboxes on that item.
I'd like to pull items number 3 and 4, please. And if no other comment, I'll make a motion to approve items 1 and 2.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comment from the community? Call for the vote.
I don't have anything.
Thank you, Jordan.
Okay, try it again.
Call for the vote.
All ayes.
Item number 3.
Initially, this item, we've been talking about the e-bus and the need for this for a couple years. Was this not a budgeted item?
We have it budgeted, but as it was called out, Dennis, I don't believe it was strictly called out as a budgeted item, but we have excess in the budget on the e-bus.
And can you help me remember what Fund 122 is?
That's our transportation fund.
Okay.
Most of the funding comes from MTA, from the county.
Okay, so we have money in that fund to cover these costs.
Yes.
Great. Those are my questions.
Okay, would you like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve item number 3, authorize the purchase of the mobile column lift in the amount of $46,275 plus tax from Napa Tools and Equipment.
Second.
Comments? Call for the vote.
Cindy, did you vote?
Oh, might be a good idea.
All ayes.
I am going to abstain from item number 4. Apparently, the city's GIS system is down, and we are not confirmed whether or not my property is within 500 feet. So we're going to require me to abstain from item number 4.
Wow.
Much to my dismay.
Okay, so item number 4 is a request by Jack Tuesday for an encroachment permit for up to 4 off-street parking spaces. As the staff report indicates, doing this would actually remove parking from Wrigley Road and put it into the hillside, but it would require a encroachment permit by the city. Typically, what is done is that because it involves the taking of city property, the municipal code requires that the council makes those decisions, and so before it goes to planning in terms of the particulars of the size and the design of it, we take it to the council to see if you would grant the permit to use city property for this. Unfortunately, Mr. Tusi is not here, so he cannot answer any questions about why he needs this and where the 4 vehicles are coming from. And neither is Al, so it's up to the council's determination, but it was the recommendation of staff to approve the encroachment permit. And I'll be happy to answer any questions of knowledge that I have. But again, Al and Mr. Tusi are not here today.
Well, I'm not taking the chicken way out, but if, without Mr. Tusi here, number 1, until we can find out if Cindy has the ability, if I guess GIS will be up or somebody can throw a crow over and have them count the.
Yeah, it was down tonight when we tried to use Google Maps, and the answer is it's really close on Google Maps, but the GIS will give you exact footage.
Okay, I mean, I don't know if there's any urgency, but because I don't know what the city has done, because it's looking at 3, explaining how that 2.39 feet to 3.38 feet is being taken. Is it from the road? Are they taking the wall away and moving our wall back? So we're giving them our wall space, or are we taking away roadway? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't have the particulars.
Looks like they're digging into the wall.
I know, but right. So I guess I don't know, but maybe you all feel like you have enough information. Maybe Dennis can shed a little light.
I'm sorry I wasn't involved in this, but prior to the meeting today, I went up and measured, if that'll help you. The roadway from the guardrail on the ocean side of the road to the white wall is 24 feet wide. 2 12-foot lanes is what is currently there. I believe, and I'm not sure, the idea is to excavate into, remove that white wall and excavate it in perpendicularly. It's quite a costly endeavor. It's quite major, but I'm not really sure, nor have I seen the drawings. I believe the staff report says it's still up to Planning Commission and some other things and some conditions, if that helps you decide tonight. But I wish I had more information for you on your 2.9 feet or whatever that is, Mayor. I just don't have it.
So an average lane, a legal lane, is how wide?
Depends where you're at. Avalon?
Okay, not Avalon.
Yeah. On the freeways, it's 12. On mainland, you'll find a lot of 9s, 10s with the shoulder.
So it's 24 right there, but okay, that road wasn't rebuilt that long ago, so that road is pretty consistently 24 feet?
It really is, yeah. I took a look at it from 333 all the way up to Mount Ada, and it's pretty consistently 24 feet wide.
Okay. And that is not lined, is it? We don't have lines on that street?
You have a line in the middle.
Are there lines in the middle?
Yes.
Okay, I don't remember. And so when a bus is so wide, I don't know how big our...
buses are 8 feet wide. Our e-buses are 8 feet wide.
And how about Island Company buses? And
there are also 8.
Okay.
That's the maximum width a vehicle can be in California.
And what's the width of a fire truck? 8 feet, too?
8?
Yeah, 8 or 12.
We heard of something.
8, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think, as I recall, I think this item, assuming it passes, I think the plan was to have it at the Planning Commission meeting, and the next Planning Commission meeting is after, it's after the council meeting. So, if you wanted to, you could just continue this and request that Mr. Tucci personally appear before the council to answer questions.
Because they're wanting permission they're wanting the encroach permit before we go back. So basically, if we agreed, we'd be saying, okay, you get your 2.39 feet and 3.38 feet, and then that seems the biggest determination of any of it. So then what is the Planning Commission going to do? Go, okay, it's already been decided by the council, so I guess there it goes? So would they?
Well, the issue is for the Planning Commission is also, does this justify a variance? Because the actual structure of this parking lot would be really on the lot line of the adjacent property, so they have to do that, and they'd also have to make a finding that it's necessary, and then that goes to the issue of why 4 parking spaces.
And one other question, then, it is probably not relevant, but because if it's parking on someone's private property, I mean, every residence is only entitled to 1 autoette and 1 vehicle. But that doesn't mean, but he could just park whatever he wanted in there, right? I mean, but he could.
What he's asking for is an exclusive easement or an exclusive encroachment permit to park 4 vehicles there. Usually in the past, what the city has done is when it creates a parking space partially on city property, it's a parking space for whoever wants to be there. What Mr. Tucci is asking for, I believe, is an exclusive parking, because he's going to spend substantial money digging into this hole, and therefore, if he's going to spend that much money, he wants the exclusive right to park there.
I understand the exclusivity, but the number of cars that can park, that's not of any consequence.
Well, you can consider that in granting the encroachment permit, but I don't know why he needs 4. So that would be something that he could answer again.
So, okay.
Why isn't it, because this is coming to us because the planning commission isn't meeting until next week?
No, it comes to you because traditionally, for the very concept of do you want to give city property, the council is that decision maker. And so if you don't want to give property to someone, it doesn't need to go to the planning commission because it's you own the property, not the planning commission.
I don't think it's a good idea to start giving away more of our property. We're already being sandwiched in this town, even if it's just a little bit. Plus, it's a single dwelling family unit, isn't it?
But there's multiple parcels up there, so he owns all the parcels. So I mean,
You can't divide them, though. They're deed restricted.
There's more questions than answers.
can he build on them and put other people in them, though?
No.
So the plot thickens. So I think we ought to pull this.
I agree.
And however it needs to come back, whether it goes to the planning commission first or back to us. And then the question is, if he's going to dig in the hill, why does he need 2.39 to 3.38? Is that just 3 feet less he has to dig inside of the hill? I don't know.
I think because the issue is there's an ancient oak tree there. So if you dig further into it, you damage the roots of the oak tree. So I think this was trying to preserve this tree.
Okay. So what are we holding it over or giving it to the planning
Hold it
commission?
over.
Well,
I think we'll hold it over.
Yeah.
Okay. And he will have heard what we've said,
Right,
so
yeah, he'll be here.
that'll prepare him. Okay. And we are going on to general business.
First item in general business is a public hearing, and this is on the saltwater and the sewer fees for fiscal year 2016 and 17. The public notice was mailed out to the property owners 45 days prior, and that was 1,495 parcels that received this notice. Recommended action is to open the public hearing and to hear any public comment. For the record, we have only received one written protest, I guess you'll call it, on raising of the fees. If the council determines after the public hearing that there isn't a majority, that you've heard from a majority of the parcel owners, then by a 4/5 vote, it is recommended that you waive a full reading of the ordinance, introduce it, and establish the rates for the saltwater service fees, saltwater and sewer service fees, and this will come back a second time for adoption.
Okay, I'd like to open the public hearing. Does anybody want to comment? Hi.
Did you believe there's 1,489 people drunk at my house? No, okay. So, I'm always the only one here about this. But last time when you discussed this, well, actually, I want to start out with something else. First off, I would like to say that collectively, I really appreciate what's going on here. I mean, nobody ever agrees with anybody about everything, anything, and I don't care. I like what's happening. That you tackled the water and that we just had a discussion about, oh, what about this? Well, what about the acre feet? Well, what about that? Everybody knows now. The girl from Medicine said, hi, Debbie. I'm like, hi. I forgot her name. I mean, you know what I mean? That's huge. And, you know, I mean, everybody isolates nitpicky, I almost said something bad, stuff. But I appreciate collectively, all of you are transparent, really. And I can catch you at the mall if I want to, and everybody's around. So I appreciate it. That being said, I'm going to bitch. Now, the last discussion you had about this was about we got busted by the water police and you couldn't raise fees for a little while till we got off probation. Is that about right? And that you hadn't raised any fees for 5 years. So that's why it's going to be a 10% raise in saltwater and sewer, because you didn't have a chance. All I'm asking, because those 1,400 people wouldn't come down with me, and they never do, is that could you break it up? You know, it's a 10% on, I have 4 units, so it's 4 times to me and whatever. And I mean, I do my best to stay a cheap landlord. I do. Ask. You know, I hate to raise their rent. I don't have separate electric. It's all on 1 meter, so your stuff's included. And I absorb the this and I absorb the that, whatever I can. But I don't know about you, money's tight at my house. So I'd like to be able to spread it out if that's an option. Not that you're not going to recover. You know, whatever that 10% it is over the next couple of years, could you add it to the usual raise and just spread it out? That little bit of poison at a time is easier to swallow. That's all I'm saying. Thanks.
Thank you. That's on the tax bill.
We have spread it out.
Say that a little louder.
Well, we raised fees last year, and we did not raise fees to totally recover the cost of providing the services, so we did spread them out. We spread them out over 2 years. That was what the intention was. It was raised last year. I think it was 7 or something like that.
10% and 15%.
Okay, and what we're trying to do is the enterprise funds, the sewer fund and the saltwater fund, right now they're taking assets away from the general fund, which is all the rest of the money we spend. We're trying to get the enterprise funds to pay for themselves.
The point is, I don't think anything's more general than the sewer. You know, and I mean, if it's just going to carry and make it easy for the all-day population, and never mind, and our guests, you know, but I mean, we both know that money's going down the sewer. We need a new sewer. It's not a new problem. It's one of those kick-forward ones. We all know it. It's missing here. It's not there. I bought a few sewer pipes. I've had a few stank balls at my house, you know, when they clump up because there's no pipe there and all that. You know, I get it. You know, it's not news. It's not news to me. And one of these days, one generation is going to get clipped. And we're going to have to stop just slip lining and doing all these things. We're trying to hold it together. I got an old building. I'm trying to hold my building together, too. I'm trying to hold on. Swear to God. Okay? So's everybody, as far as I know. TV says, no, we're all recovered. I don't think so. I have not seen my checkbook. So that's what I'm saying. It's going to end up trickling down to tenants that are not really... and right now, you know about rent. I mean, I keep seeing that one bedroom for $22.50 going, am I high or what? You know what I mean? It's like, but okay, I don't want to do that just because, you know, and if it could spread it out, like it was my understanding that you couldn't raise it or it was only raised once in the last X amount of years. And instead of slamming that whole 10 down or the whole whatever, and if you already did that and I misunderstood, then I misunderstood. Okay, but I'm just saying, I don't think there's anybody in this room who's got excess cash to spend. And if you do, 327 Metropole, I'll be home.
Thank you.
And just for the record, just because I was here, there was no legal reason why you couldn't raise rates. You just didn't have the votes to do it. The staff came forward with a request to raise rates, and the council said no.
And then one year we skipped, and then last year we started doing it again.
Correct.
Any other comments from the public? Okay, we will close the public hearing. Council?
If you break down, just for,
yeah,
of course, I'm a property owner, so of course I don't want to see anything being raised, but I also know what it does to our general fund. So if you add just for residential, the annual increase for the sewer and the salt together, and you break it down, it's $19 more each month. Just spend that on a cold pack. Or a bottle of tequila.
Bottle of aspirin.
Okay, what's your pleasure?
Well, and it is a bitter pill to swallow, but we've got to get the general fund to stop subsidizing enterprise funds. Enterprise funds were set up to be self-funding, and we're taking money out of recreation, we're taking money out of fire protection, we're taking money out of sheriffs. By taking the money out of the general fund, I think we need to get the cost to be paid by the users. And I would, what would I do? I would...
That whole big thing.
Trying to find what I'm doing.
She read it all.
Yeah, we don't have 1,495 protests.
So the So the appropriate motion would be to introduce and waive all readings of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Avalon establishing rates for saltwater service fees and sewer service fees.
So moved.
The motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Further comment?
Yeah, I want to comment. Let's just consider, what if we did spread it out over 2 years?
We go further in the hole.
We go further in the hole.
Yeah. We took half the increase last year, and that reduced the deficit by half, but we still had to what, $300,000 come out of the general fund?
So this cost will, instead of it coming out of the general fund, it's going to be passed on to the consumers basically through the landlords.
Yeah.
Or the individual?
More than likely, because the landlords can't suck that up. So I'm compassionate with your dialogue, Debbie, for sure. That's something I very much understand, being a renter. So I also understand my landlord's situation. So I wish we could do it differently, but I think we got to get it on track. So that being said, thank you for your input. I think it's valuable.
Yes.
It is good.
It's accurate.
And I agree. I think we need to suck it up and get it done. I mean,
it hurts. It does.
Yeah, it does. It's not an easy situation. Between a rock and a hard spot.
Because we are doing a rate study, right, sometime this year?
Yes.
Rumor. Maybe when the rate study gets done, we can take a page from Edison, and Edison has, through the PUC, some lower rates for people to meet needs. And maybe we can incorporate that in the rate structure next year.
What was that other part, Oli? I didn't hear it.
Well, the Edison, in all of our bills, we get things about how if you're a low-income family and you can't afford it, they have a pot of money they can throw at you to help you cover your utilities. Well, when we get the rate study done, we find out what the actual rates by category are. Maybe we can tweak that a little bit to come up with some low-income money for the poor people.
Okay, let's call for the vote.
We get a second already?
No, we got a second, yes.
All ayes.
Okay, item number 6 in general business.
Item 6 is an expulsion appeal for the vessel Pandemonium. Brian Bray is in the audience. I'm not sure, is the vessel owners? Oh, they are here.
Okay.
You're the owner of the business, or you're the?
I'm the owner of the business.
Okay.
I don't know what your process is.
Brian Bray, you want to come up and just give a little history?
He'll
please?
introduce it and then we'll.
Good evening. The vessel Pandemonium was issued a citation for discharging green dye into the bay back on Wednesday, April 13th at 2 o'clock. One of our harbor patrol officers was going by the boat and noticed that green dye was coming from the overflow vent. The officer pointed out the green dye discharge to the occupant, who asked his wife to stop flushing, and when she stopped flushing, the green dye stopped coming out of the vent. The person was issued a citation, and the vessel was removed from Avalon Bay and placed in Descanso Bay. The vessel was a charter boat from Marina Sailing, and now they're appealing the one-year expulsion from the Avalon Bay on the grounds that the owner of the boat should not be penalized for the mistake that someone who chartered his boat made the mistake. The applicable municipal code section does not exempt a vessel from expulsion if it's operated by someone other than the vessel's owner. The expulsion of the vessel is based on strict liability, which means that mechanical failure, lack of information or intent is not considered a defense. So the owners are now here represented and asking for leniency so the owners of the boat can use Avalon Bay when they want to come to Avalon because it was a charter boat.
So let me ask us a couple of questions to kind of set the stage. How long have we had the dye tablet program?
Since August 1st, 1988.
Okay. Do you have any idea how many boats have been expelled from the harbor for that year? In those years, roughly 10, 20, 30, 50?
I don't know the amount. Over the years, I would say it's somewhere around 200.
Okay. And let me ask another question. How many of these expulsions have been overturned?
That I know of, one. And that was
Okay.
because the
before.
person had dove in the water and was trying to stick a plug in the discharge valve that it was coming from.
Brian, can you share with us the process? So the vessel comes into the harbor. At what point does the Harbor Patrol put a tab in and test?
Once the boat gets secured on the mooring, one of our Harbor Patrol officers goes by and sticks a dye tablet in each one of the toilets aboard.
Approximately how long between the time they're on the mooring until the...
It all depends on the circumstances. If we're busy, it may be that the people are able to go ashore and come back, and we get them next time that they're aboard the boat.
So obviously the harbor patrolman put a tab in, which is how they know. This wasn't during the testing time, this was after the testing time. So what is the process from the harbor patrolman? What is the dialogue that they have with the persons on any vessel explaining the reasons why we're dye tabbing? And
They put the dye tablet in each one of the toilets, and then they get off the vessel back in their patrol boat and ask the person to flush the dye tablet down in each one of the toilets long enough that they think it's going to get back to their holding tank. They'll circle the boat, look for any green dye, and if it happens while we are there, we consider it a test and we ask them to check their valves. This isn't the case. It came out of their overflow. Their tank was full.
that's exactly what I was getting to. Okay.
Do we have any questions of the owner, or would you like to come up and?
I've been in my own mind trying to figure out how to approach all this, and number one, I'm not going to contest the occurrence or the process that you have. I mean, it is what it is. In 16 years that I've run the office out of the Newport office, I know of 2 other occurrences out of our boats in 16 years. We provide a lot of information to people that charter our boats about the process. We give it to them verbally, it's written, there's maps of Avalon, there's the whole 9 yards is in a big book sitting on all of our charter boats. Collectively, I would say on average, we bring, between all of the 6 offices, just our company alone probably brings well over 3,000 days of people being here to Avalon Harbor. Just a guess. But my issue, and that's one of the, it's interesting that it was from 1988. When I think about charter boats, I don't blame the boat. I blame the guy on the boat. He makes a mistake, he needs to pay for it. They get charged, I think, what is it, $500? Something like that? Yeah. Could be more. But for the most part, most of our people are pretty, they make mistakes like anybody else. And I guess the owner, rightly so, is saying, wait, I didn't do it. Somebody else did it. But the boat gets blamed. And that's always been true, and it's always been sort of a, why don't we blame the person, that did it, not the boat. I could take any one of my boats and say, okay, that particular boat has had 10 charterers in a given year, 10 separate people that have come over for 3 or 4 days. And that's just one boat. But the boat itself gets banned. So whether or not you overturn this and do this variance or not, I guess part of what I wanted to say tonight is that something that the council could look at? I mean, I'm not interested in walking away and saying this person wasn't, they made a mistake. After reviewing it, talking to them, they made a mistake. That's what it was. And
Is it possible for the city council to consider going to more of a person thing instead of the entire boat? If all the boats came over and were owned by one person, that would make perfectly good sense to me. But these boats are owned by individuals. I own boats. Like I said, and if somebody came over and did it, I'd want them to pay a lot more than $200 for their mistake. But I'd like to be able to take the boat back, talk to them about it, and send the next person over. And 200 cases since 1988? I don't know if that's because of your policy or that's just because sailors are pretty careful coming over here. I don't know. But I would like a variance for the owner if you can do it, and think about changing it maybe more to a single person. There may be some other rationale that I'm not aware of, but blame the individual, not the boat. Thank you.
Thank you.
The individual meaning the boat captain.
The responsible party.
Okay.
The way the ordinance is written is the person skippering the boat and the boat, because we don't always know who's aboard the boat. So,
but the skipper is responsible for the boat,
Right.
and is responsible for everybody on it.
But he might lend it to his friend Joe, and then the skipper might be downstairs, and the boat would be able to come in because he wasn't skippering it. So I think the ordinance was written around the vessel itself is banned. They're not banned from Avalon completely. They can still use Descanso Bay and Hamilton Cove. It's just using the inside harbor for 1 year.
Brian, the overflow, just for everyone else's benefit here, the overflow essentially means that the tank wasn't cleaned out.
Well,
so the tank's full, it's overflowing. So at any given point, they could have had a service clean the tank out.
They could have gone to the pump out dock and pumped it out, but nobody does it on purpose.
Right.
Every single time that we've had this done has been an accident. I mean, we've even cited somebody as the paramedics are taking the lady to the hospital that tripped down the hallway and hit the macerator switch. So, I mean, it's not a fun job to have to write a citation and ask somebody to leave the bay.
But you still feel like the ordinance, it shouldn't be rewritten?
I think the ordinance should stay as is.
And I think one of the reasons for the citing the boat is the fact that if it's not your boat and if it's a rental boat, it's behooving upon the people that rent it to you to make sure that you fully understand how to operate the systems and the ramifications if the systems fail. And I think that's what one of the reasons of, we heard an appeal like this a couple of years ago that was a rental boat that came in and the guy hit the wrong switch and
Yeah, the boat captain has to be in charge of his boat and everybody on it. I think that competence is extremely important. And if it's just an accident like this, I think we're okay. I'm glad nobody got hurt because of a boat captain's incompetence. But that's extremely important because this is the deep blue sea out here. I think maybe considering not renting to that guy anymore might be an option as well. But, it's...
I won't take up too much time. I have, not necessarily because of that, but there have been 4 or 5 people, or maybe more, in my 16 years I've basically thrown out of the club and won't rent to them at all. And not because of discharge, but because they're idiots. And I, it takes too much time to fix boats. I have to work that hard to fix a boat that somebody else now can't use because somebody's an idiot and they're not very polite about it. Then I just throw them away. I throw them out. I don't care who they are. So Like I said, we do spend an inordinate amount of time making sure that people understand the sanctity of the Catalina Island, especially Avalon, because it's a little bit, well, probably technically it's harder to keep it clean than some of the other coasts, for instance, around the island. But anyway, just thought I'd throw that out. Captains are responsible for their boats, and it's Brian, right? He's absolutely right. Most all of it's going to be an accident. So I don't know. I'll throw the mercy on the court.
So when you said that the holding tank was full, so when the dye came out, did sewage come out with it in this case? Would sewage have come out, Brian?
It would, yeah, because of the dye. My understanding was differently than yours, but maybe it was. I didn't realize that. I was told that they were out offshore.
No, they were tied up to mooring number.
No, they were offshore when it leaked. I mean, they were offshore. They came back in. She forgot to close the through hole when they were offshore, and that's when it leaked. But if it came through the vent,
The Harbor Patrol officer's report said that he saw it come out of the vent on
okay,
the side of the
then I got bad information. But that's normal coming through the vent. If it's full, yes, they should have done something. That's why I said I didn't deny what was going down.
It's coming out of the starboard side
Yeah.
overflow vent. Okay.
I'm certainly sympathetic to Brian, Harbor Master Bray's comment that each one of these is an accident. You know, we don't intend to have accidents, whether it's a boating accident, vehicle accident, accidents are accidents. However, we do need to back up the Harbor Department. When we're asking the Harbor Department to do their job and they do it, we really need to back them up for doing it. I believe that our ordinance is pretty cut and dry. Avalon itself cannot afford overflow issues inside our harbor. We have a serious constraint with our cease and desist order, and we really just can't take the risk of, not imposing penalties when, if we were to be so lenient, we could have 2 or 3 of these, and once you're lenient for one, you've got to be lenient for more. Therefore, how is that going to affect our issues with our harbor? So I have a concern about that. As far as your situation or this business's situation with renting and the vessels and whether or not they would be, the owner shouldn't necessarily be responsible. It should be more of a person thing. I do disagree with that. It is part of the cost of doing business. It is something that I would expect that that the business would have a provision for in their contract with the customer. Hypothetically, if you expel dye in Avalon Harbor, it could cost me 1 year. Those revenues would be such. Therefore, you'll be indemnifying up to $5,000 if, or something or another. I would expect all that to be written into the contract with the customers when you're renting. But I do consider that the cost of doing business. I see the inconvenience at some times of the year to be moored out in Descanso, but it doesn't prohibit the visitor from still being able to enjoy Catalina, still being able to enjoy an amazing harbor out at Descanso. So personally, I think we need to keep the ordinance as is and uphold the citation.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, well, there we go.
Comments from the community? Call for the vote.
All ayes.
Thank you.
On the human side of that, I'm so sorry for that. It's a tough decision to make for sure.
Okay. Item number 7.
Item number 7 is the verification of the sufficiency of signatures for the petition allowing medical marijuana in the city of Avalon, and the determination by the council as to when to put this initiative on the ballot. The sole issue before the council tonight in terms of its decision is Whether you have it, you call a special election in September, whether you have this measure heard in the presidential election in November, or whether you have this measure heard at the next city council elections in April of 2018. You do have one option, is to delay your decision for 30 days to allow our office to prepare an analysis of the ordinance and how it would affect land use, development regulations, the finances, the ability to provide public services. We'd have to talk with the sheriff's department, and then we'd bring that report to the council, but then the council would at that time, which would be the July 7th meeting, still have to determine when the initiative would go on the ballot. If the council asked us to prepare a report, we just delay it 30 days, and so the initiative would be heard in October as a special election, November along with the regular election, or again in April. The only other thing that is in the staff report is that there are currently a dozen initiatives circulating out there for the November ballot that would legalize marijuana in various forms and substances. Their real difference is that the way they tax the marijuana, they all have different tax rates, and there are some differences in terms of what they would allow. It appears as if the one act that has the sufficient signatures, or will have the sufficient signatures, they have got over 600,000 signatures. That one would legalize marijuana in California. It would allow a city to ban entirely the non-medical use of marijuana, with the exception of cities would be required to allow indoor cultivation of marijuana, and cities would be required to allow delivery of marijuana within their jurisdictions. So there's the other initiatives do kind of the same thing in different ways. We don't know if they're going to be on the ballot. But again, the issue before you tonight, and the sole issue, is not to discuss the merits of the initiative. It's to discuss when you want the citizens to hear this matter. Because there are enough signatures for this matter will go to the electorate. Once you've verified the number of signatures, the train leaves the station, and so the only issue now is when you're going to hear this. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions on this initiative, or I can go into excruciating details on the 10 initiatives that are out there. But again, most of them would legalize marijuana.
Right. Well, if we can take one action at a time, let's start with the first one, which is to receive, file, and accept certificate of sufficiency of initiative petition. Would anybody like to make a motion that or do we just say we want to receive, file, or do we call for the vote?
We actually call for a vote.
Okay, is there a motion to receive, file, and accept certificate of sufficiency and initiative petition?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Public comment?
Well, first and second, now we have comment. The public want to comment just on receiving, filing, and accepting certificate. Okay, let's call for the vote. Okay. Mark was going, wait a minute, what the heck just happened? Okay, item number 2 in this report is direct staff to prepare a report, or the alternatives and or the resolutions. So let's have a discussion.
So it's direct staff to prepare a report analyzing the impact of the proposed initiative, measure, or alternatively adopt one of the 3 attached resolutions placing the initiative measure on the future ballot. If everything would, if we make any decisions and everything changes in the presidential election in November, when all the other initiatives are going to come up on a ballot, how are we supposed to make sound judgment at this point right now when things could totally change in 6 months? I'm trying to rationalize that right off the bat.
Well, the issue would be, again, in terms of, let's assume that the ballot initiative that is the most likely to be on the ballot passes. All that does is it still allows you, it keeps the state's medical marijuana laws intact. What it does is it legalizes marijuana for cities that want to have marijuana in it. So cities can still ban marijuana. You can still ban the non-medicinal use of marijuana. What you can't do under the initiative that looks as if it will be on the ballot is you have to allow indoor cultivation of marijuana, and you have to allow the delivery of marijuana to people. It's not
But
really,
you said within the limits. Does that mean within the city?
Within the city
So
limits.
still we have the issue of how does it get here? For those people.
Well,
You have to allow cultivation.
You have to allow
cultivation or delivery, you said,
Right.
or delivery. So the question is, I guess the delivery can only be amongst local people that are cultivating
It's really,
because of the federal law.
that's part of this long initiative that it really not clearly spelled out what all delivery means, and we could look at that. But I don't want to.
Yeah, we're not going to muddy it here. But I understand that initiative is 52 pages long. So
I thought it was more than that, but.
as of yesterday, it was 52.
Great.
Obamacare, nobody will read it. Can I reduce this down to the really simple things?
Let's try it.
Okay, if we want to have a special election, it's about $35,000.
Yes.
If we want to go in November, it's between $7,000 and $10,000. And if we wait until April of 2018, it's $5,000. So what does the council want to spend?
Denise, did you hear back from the county?
Yes.
So that's the 7,000?
Yes, that was their estimate. It's not an official estimate because they were extremely busy prior to this election, and
Yeah.
but they said because of the number of voters that we have, that
Okay.
that's for the November one.
So, Oli, could you please repeat what the special election, the November election, and then what was the last one you said?
The next council election. The special election is between $5,000 and $10,000. No, special election is $35,000. The November election is between 7 and 10, probably closer to 7. And in April of 2018, it would be about 5,000 because we're already having an election then. So I think it comes down to we spend 7,000 in November, or do we wait 2 more years and put it in April?
So you can only have a special election on a special numbered year? I mean, an even numbered year?
You can only have a special election within, it's 88 days, or I think 130 days from when the election is called. Or if there's a general statewide election, you have it, then that's the presidential election. And that, again, that depends on whether the initiative was certified within 6 months of that. So you only have one, that's November. And then after November, you have to wait until the next city council election, which would actually, so
Okay,
that's.
I'm not understanding that. Okay. Help me with the 88 to 100 days and all of that good
Okay.
stuff. So November, let's say we don't do it in November. Let's say we don't. And why do we have to wait 2 years?
Because that's what the state statute says is when you have the election. At the next regular election, and the regular election is defined when the city council people are elected. So it's November this year, or, well, again, it's earlier, or it's November this year, or then I guess it would be, April 2018.
Correct.
So we just can't call election any old time we want.
We can.
Well,
On this one, we can.
on this one you can't. There could be.
Oh.
On this one you're limited to these dates.
Because, the sad thing is if we wanted to wait till November to see what happens in November and then go, okay, but right after that, we're much more aware of what's going on, and then we want a little bit of time to study, so we have it in February.
And we
of
looked at
2017 or
and,
something.
and we looked at that option because that option appears to be a reasonable option, and under state law, you do not have that opportunity to do that. You have to wait until the next regular meeting where the council members are elected.
Okay.
Can somebody from the public just come up and to the city hall and donate $35,000 to the city to go towards this the cost of this election?
I mean, could they do that?
Yeah.
Yes, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, you never know.
Well, I don't want to.
No, I know.
I don't want to make this about money. It's not about money. It's
Right, no,
it's about medicine for people who need their medicine. That's bottom line.
Okay, I think Mr. Milano has been very patient in the back of the room, so you want to come up and talk for a minute?
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much for entertaining this this alternative to medicine here. I don't think you should do a special election. I don't. It's never the goal of the proponent. I'm the proponent to have the city pay $35,000 so we can figure what's going on. Besides that, it's a very short window. As I spoke earlier this evening, it's a nonprofit. It's going to turn a lot of tens and hundreds of $1,000 gifts back to organizations and nonprofits within the city. So they need time to learn about it and think about it and digest it. They may think marijuana is a drug, like the way that Oxycontin's a drug, like you get at Leo's Pharmacy and turn into a heroin addict. It's not. These people self-medicating right now aren't that problem and don't cause a problem, according to our own sheriff who's spoken to you previously about this. So I'm saying don't spend the $35,000. It's not that radical. $7,000 makes a lot of sense to have it go in November. This gives everybody a chance to learn about the alternatives and whether or not they truly want to vote for it or if they're hanging on to an idea they were taught in 1950 back in school. Okay? So I think that's a reasonable amount of time, and it makes the cost the least amount at $7,000. The citizens of Avalon have put their name on the line in order to be able to vote on this topic. It would be a hardship to make them wait 2 years to vote on it. That would just be inappropriate and truthfully unacceptable. We're all going to be voting in November. We all have a great stake in the future of America, and we're all going to be voting in November. So it makes the very most sense, at the very lowest cost, to let the citizens of Avalon decide what they want to do in November, when we're going to the polls anyway. We've got a president to elect, the country's at risk. So everybody's going to be activated. Let's find out what the people want, and what the people want should go forward. I can tell you that although only 197 signatures were verified, there were another 146 signatures, I believe the number was, of people who we met who think they have a right to vote in Avalon, and their signatures were not authorized, most of them because they changed addresses from the last time they registered, and so when they signed the petition, their name wasn't counted. But if you add all of them together, you've got about 325. Additionally, I personally spoke to over 100 people who were afraid to sign the petition because of backlash from their employer. So of the amount of voters out there, over half of them were already in favor of this. And I think it's important to give them the chance to vote on it. They put their names on the line. They want to do it. The money's been spent. The time's been spent. Let the people talk. Now, if the majority of people in Avalon say, we don't want any kind of marijuana, then so be it. That's the law. On the other hand, if they decide to go forward and have medical marijuana through a dispensary, then that will be the law that's made. So I ask that you today decide to let the people vote in November, when they're going to be voting anyway, on this very important proposition that they've all signed up for. one other caveat. In the package that you've been given on item 7, there's a sample ballot box. You know the one I'm talking about, where it says something on the left and then on the right it says yes or no? There's an error there. There is an error. If you look to that page, it says that there will be a 12%. Now, we're not talking about the hundreds of thousands of dollars that are going to be given to the community. We're talking from the nonprofit. We're talking about what we call the transaction fee. If you read the proposition, it says that there's a 12% transaction fee. When our city attorney drafted the paperwork in front of you, he calls it a transaction tax fee. There's no tax in here. It's not a tax. It's a transaction fee. So that must be stricken regardless. It is not a tax on the sale. It's a transaction fee. And KK&B has already been reprimanded by a judge in another city because it came through as a transaction fee, and then KK&B, attempting to stop the dispensaries from opening, called that a tax. And the judge says, it's not fair to call it a tax after the people voted on the fee. So the paperwork provided to the city, call it a transaction fee, and 12% off the top goes to the schools, the alcohol and drug education, and the general fund, and that's a transaction fee. So that needs to be changed regardless, because it's not a tax. The other line is, let the people talk. Let the people vote. And if the people vote no, the answer is no. And if the people vote yes, the answer is yes. And we are a democracy. And they signed the petition. They followed all the rules. To make them wait over 2 years to be able to handle this topic is just unjust. So please, any questions about the process or what we did or what it says? I mean, I wrote it. I know what it means.
Not right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I kind of have a question. I was reading in here, it says that what the city could benefit up to $100,000 annually per dispensary.
That's the 12%. That's the 12% transaction fee. That's not the amount that I told you about coming from the nonprofit. That'll be hundreds of thousands. I hope. One councilman has already said it's $700,000 a year. I don't think it's that much, but
okay. But the wording says up to $100,000. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, you know what? If it happens that it comes here, and we have 2 dispensaries competing, and there are only, even though 1,000 people may vote in favor of it, there may only be 200 people using it as medication. Mm-hmm. So it couldn't possibly provide $1 million to the city if there's only 200 people. You can't tax 200 people that much. So it's a pro rata. The more that is spent is the more that comes in, and you're going to have 2 competing stores or dispensaries. And so who knows what the actual number is? We don't know. I don't know. I don't know anything about the business. I'm an MBA. I'm going to figure it out, okay? And I'm going to figure it out on the nonprofit level, which is what it's incorporated, as I spoke of earlier. And so I expect anything over the 12% to be given back to the foundations and the nonprofits in the city of Avalon. And I'm already pledging no salary for me, my family, or my staff. It's not about that.
Got it.
Thank you.
Mark. Okay, so can you clarify, maybe not right this second, but that difference between the transfer fee and the transaction fee and the tax?
It's a tax because it specifically goes to, under Proposition 218, it's a tax. It's not a fee for doing it. It's a transaction tax that is a 12% tax on the sale that goes to a specific purpose. And so that is a tax under Proposition 218, which requires the 2/3 vote.
Okay. And is that money going to the state?
No, it goes to the city.
It all does. I mean, the state, because a tax, usually our tax money goes there and then they...
No. Well, okay. So this is a local tax.
Okay.
Or a local fee, but it's a local tax. And so what it does is it says you have an annual license of $10,000, and then whatever revenue you get from this, up to $100,000, you pay for the city. So that would be, if my math is correct, I'm thinking if it's about $1 million, maybe a little bit more.
833,000.
833. Okay. Up to that, then that 12% goes to the city, the school, and it's split up. And because it's dedicated to a specific purpose, Proposition 218 says it needs 2/3 vote. After the 100,000 is paid to those funds, the way the ordinance is set up, there is no tax anymore. So it's a maximum amount of 100,000 a year.
You sure,
Yeah.
Paula? Come on now.
But again, the only thing that we're here
Right,
to
exactly.
discuss
The only thing
tonight
you're talking
is not
about
the
is-
specifics of this.
Right.
It is just the date.
Correct.
Okay.
Although, again,
So-
to be honest, Mr. Milan indicated that he would prefer it be called a fee. What I'm telling you is legally it's a tax. He's called it a
Right.
fee. It's a tax under Prop 218.
I'm just clarifying that the decision that this council
Correct.
is supposed to make tonight is a date issue, not a terminology issue.
Well, one of the things you're doing in the resolution is that this is the question, and we're limited to 75 words. So that's the question that goes on the ballot.
Okay.
Yes.
I just, Paula Patterson, 221 Whitley, and I just have, I'm unclear what the point of, this is a separate initiative that we want to put on the local ballot that is aside from what will be whatever the state ends up putting on their ballot. So what we're doing is trying to supersede what the state makes as a decision to have medical marijuana dispensary here in Avalon. Is that kind of what we're asking the voters with this, aside from whatever the state's going to say, whatever they decide to put on the ballot?
Now, the state has already enacted a law regarding medical marijuana.
Right.
What the past Avalon City Council determined was that there would be no medical marijuana dispensaries in the city. The
Right.
purpose of this ordinance, proposed ordinance, is to overturn that prior decision and allow medical marijuana dispensaries in Avalon under the terms set forth in the ordinance.
Do you know, Mr. Campbell, if it is if the state is moving towards legalization, period, medical marijuana, or no? I mean, that's just a question I have. I don't know. It seems rather superfluous, but I don't know.
All I can say is I've looked at the polls, and the what's called the Control, Regulate, and Tax Adult Use of Marijuana Initiative is polling very well if it is put to the voters. But again, it hasn't. What they're doing is they're going through those 600,000 signatures right now and verifying them.
Right.
And if that's done, it will be on the ballot in November. And the polls are all over the place.
So this is kind of like something to fast track, overturn what the city council already voted on, right?
The ban of the dispensaries.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I just couldn't figure out
that's
what
good.
this was about. So.
Good question. I mean,
Thank you.
It's foggy to a lot of us, and it's and then thank you. And then we have Michael Ponce.
And I have one more question, too. I want to make sure I don't forget.
Michael Ponce, 100 Banning Drive. I think it's commendable that they were able to get the signatures. Granted, they only got 176 signatures, 194 of them that they collected were not able to use. But I still think it's commendable they got it on the ballot. My problem is I don't think we as a community should be paying for their election. They're the group that wants to overturn the ban. They should pay for it. I do not see as paying for it. To me, it's wrong. You guys all ran on fiscal responsibility, giving away $7,000 to put it even on the November ballot. To me, is not good spending. If they really wanted this, then they'd wait for the election that it would be on, where it's not going to cost us because we're already going to have our own election.
Well, it would still cost us about $5,000 on our own. So,
but it will be on our election, on our terms. It's just to tag it on to another one. I don't like that, and to have a special election, I don't like that either. And so, but that's what we're here. That's what you're here to decide is where you're going to put it, and for us to have to spend money to put it on another ballot when it could just be on our own.
in 2 years. Thank you, Michael, for your comment.
Thank you. Scott, on this terminology, it says, shall the Avalon Municipal Code be amended to permit up to 2 medical marijuana dispensaries and similar facilities? Can you define that, similar facilities?
There may be the ability that a dispensary could also be, you could have one dispensary and one collective, or 2 collectives. Because it's dispensary and collectives, but there's limited to 2 licenses. So it's a terminology, because there's really a difference between, as the ordinance is drafted, there's a difference between a dispensary and a collective is a group of people getting together to form their own...
Qualified patients or primary caregivers.
So
and why would we permit only up to 2?
Well, again, that's what the ordinance as drafted says, and so that is the way that this is presented to the council.
Scott, can I ask for clarification maybe for the public also? So this ordinance that's drafted was strictly from what Mark Milan had submitted to the city, correct? And then
correct.
So if council were to vote on this on an election date, they're tied to the ordinance the way it's written now, or is this a time for them?
This cannot be changed. That train has left the station.
However,
the people of Avalon have said, we want this to be enacted, or at least, we want this to be enacted, so now it goes to the voters for an up and down vote on the ordinance as drafted.
However, and I've been talking about this for a while, the city of Avalon has the ability to create its own initiative and put it on the ballot as well. So if there was something about this one we didn't like, we could create our own, and it would just be the Proposition B of dispensary stuff.
If the council was so inclined, you could draft an alternative to this that would go on, if you could get it soon enough, could go on the same ballot, and if it's similar and occupies the same regulatory scheme of this ordinance, and that goes, then the rule is that the one with the most votes wins.
Okay, so I'm liking this. How do we determine who the 2 dispensary operators are? How does the city determine that? Because then it would be the city saying, we're only going to allow these 2 people to go into this business.
Lottery.
Under the ordinance as presented to the council.
This is not, we're picking a date. You guys are defining a law here. What's before you is picking a date. Now, there's study sessions. You want to do study sessions. You want to learn things. But we're here to pick a date. Do we go with a special election at 35,000, or do we let the people vote in November when they're coming to the polls anyway? You guys have gotten way off track on this. Please, I ask you to keep on point, and let's let the people talk.
Perfect.
And as far as the 7,000 goes, you know what? If it were to pass, I should say that the dispensary on its own goodwill should reimburse the $7,000 because it's going to be making enough money and it's giving it to everybody in town anyway. So that's not an issue about Mike's $7,000. What's the issue is the people have a right to vote on it, and they're going to be voting in November for the president when we change the course of this country to wherever it's going. So, so I ask you, please let the people vote. And if the people vote no, it'll all go away this year and we don't have to worry about anything. And we can tell that we can say whatever the state law passes. Regardless, you've already told us that if the state law does pass and Avalon does not allow dispensaries, it must allow people to grow their own medicine. By law, that will happen if that measure passes. And it will also allow people to share amongst themselves, not for cash. But that's a state thing, and I would say if we've got a dispensary law on the books, then when the state passes their 7-Eleven and Vons and everybody gets to sell it, we can say as a city, no, we have a distribution law on the books already. It's called dispensaries, and this is how we tax it. These are the fees that we collect in doing it. Okay? So the bottom line is, That's the discussion, not whether or not you should hire an attorney and spend 30 grand to go out and make a new law. That's not tonight's discussion. I look forward to that one. I'll be here for that. But tonight is, when do the people get to talk? And they've already signed the petitions. It's all been submitted. It's all been verified. My God, let them talk about it, and we'll talk about it till we're crazy. And in November, there will be a decision. That's it. Please,
Mayor?
let the people vote.
Aside, Mr. Milan has a point here, surprisingly, and he has, aside from the proponent, we have heard from the public, and so I will make a motion to hear this, put this on the regular municipal election to be held on April 10th, 2018. That way, there's not the least amount of impact to taxpayers.
Is there a second? What's the count? 10, and then we decide that there's no second?
If there's no second, then the motion dies.
Yeah, I wonder how long we waited for
The
this.
crickets, you listen for the
Okay.
crickets.
Thank
I
you.
heard them.
Alternative motion to place it on the November election. We'll spend the $2,000 more this year than 2 years down the road.
You know what? I'm going to second that one. Comments? Call for the vote.
Wait.
Uh-oh.
Mike's jumping up there.
My comment is to you guys. This is very disappointing. You guys sit here and you talk about not spending money and we're going broke, but yet you're willing to put this on the ballot and spend the money to do it. Granted, it's only $7,000. But you sit here to put it on just $2,000 to put it on the November ballot? Yeah. Is that all it's going to be?
$2,000 more than it cost us.
But, you know, it's just the fact that you're willing to spend the money to get this on that ballot.
I think we're willing to spend the money to let the voters vote.
Yeah.
And that's what we're saying.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
So when the voters vote and we vote it down and it comes back again because Mark won't let this go, will you be just as...
It wouldn't be coming back.
Okay.
All that I know of. I mean, once the voters have spoken, they have spoken.
I'm thinking that Scott or Mr. Campbell, isn't it already going to be on the ballot in the state of California in the fall? I mean, the people are going to have a voice as the state, no? Yes?
Well, again, what is on the ballot in November is marijuana is legal throughout the state of California. Well, again, I'm assuming that the initiative that looks like it's going to go on the ballot goes on the ballot. And if that's the initiative that goes on the ballot and the only one that goes on the ballot, that initiative says is that marijuana is legal, but local entities, i.e. cities, can ban marijuana in their city. So you still retain local control. What you can't do is you cannot bar indoor cultivation. So people will be able to grow it inside their homes, and there's a provision in there in the 50-some-odd page that says that the cities have to allow delivery of marijuana. So, again, Avalon could, in that situation, even though it's legal statewide, you could still say that you're not going to have medical marijuana. You're not going to have. You're not going to allow the recreational use of it. It's up, and again, it retains local control.
But at that point, then the city could come back and reconsider what they've passed at this point?
Correct.
Okay.
There's been motion or second. Any other comments? Call for the vote. This will be an interesting one.
Okay, so the resolution with the November election date is the one that passes.
What's the vote down there?
We haven't voted yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We didn't vote?
4 ayes, 1 no. Councilmember Cassidy is the no, and the 4 ayes is Marshall, Sampson, Hernandez, and Olson.
Okay. And what else we have?
That's it.
Are we in
Done.
closed session?
No. No closed session.
Wow. Okay, if there's no other... I'd like to say goodnight, Tony. Tony is really wondering if the museum is going to be open on time, and I told him I didn't have that information, but they're moving like they're gonna, so I know they're hauling butt. So, Tony, we'll see you on June 18th.
Okay, bye. Good night. Meeting adjourned.